Should women cover their heads in worship? Women covering their heads. It's been an age-old controversy that has been argued back and forth between women of different backgrounds and between different church congregations as well. In short, it's a touchy issue. 1 Corinthians 11, 3 to 10. I'm going to read it. It says, "But I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head, but every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is the same as having her head shaved. For if a woman does not cover her head, she might as well have her hair cut off. But if it is a disgrace for a woman to have her hair cut off or her head shaved, then she should cover her head. A man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God. But woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. It is for this reason that a woman ought to have authority over her own head, because of the angels." I'm not here to tell you to cover your head or not to cover your head. I'm just here to look at the issue objectively. The argument against is that it was a cultural issue being talked about. So Paul asked the women to come to worship with their heads covered, because in those days, modest women went about with their heads covered. It was loose and promiscuous women who went about with wild hairstyles and lots of adornment. That was in Paul's day. However, we know that in some churches, the women are expected to cover their heads. But it's your choice. Whether you choose to cover your head or not, the Spirit of God gives us liberty in such matters. 2 Corinthians 3:17. And it says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." I do think, though, that women in ministry should cover their heads when speaking to others, because of people listening who may not be up to her faith level. There's a passage in 1 Corinthians 8 and verse 9 says, "But you must be careful so that your freedom does not cause others with a weaker conscience to stumble." This passage is talking about eating food sacrificed to idols. But I'm using it to talk about head covering. Someone may see you ministering with your head uncovered and lose their faith. It's a real thing, because their faith may not be developed to the level your faith has. They may become discouraged and turn away. And I would say, for the sake of people like that, a woman should cover her head while she is ministering. We are always in the presence of God, and therefore it might not be possible to keep our head covered for all our waking hours. If you cover your head only when you are praying, does that mean God is not there when you are not praying? If you cover your head when you are going to church, Does that mean that when you come home, you are not in God's presence anymore? The only verse that I can't explain away is the one that says, because of the angels. And angels are not a cultural issue. Angels are timeless. I remember God told Samuel when he was to go and anoint Israel's new king, that he looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16 verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So it's your heart that matters. Is yours a deceitful heart or a heart full of love? That is what the Lord sees, your heart, and not the fact that you've covered your head or whether you haven't covered your head. You may be dutifully covering your head, but inside your heart you are exhibiting wickedness of every kind. So check your heart. It's the Holy Spirit that will help you to live right and also be mindful of the presence of weaker brethren who might falter in faith when they see you doing something they think is wrong, in quotes. Remember, you are living to please the Master and Him alone. Have a good and a blessed day, child of God. Amen.